Good morning, dear third year learners, and welcome to another lesson in the English subject. Today we are going to tackle Unit 4, the last unit in the English syllabus for the third year streams of mathematics and technical math. So, as usual, before we start studying, we have to introduce the theme and the title of the unit. But as usual, it is your job to deduce the title and the theme of the unit. So what you are going to do, we are going to start with some lead-in activities. So the first lead-in or warm-up activity is task 1. So what you're going to do in task 1, you are going to look at the following pictures, match each facial expression in each situations from A to H with the appropriate word in the box below. We have the box below: happiness, satisfaction, anxiety, enthusiasm, sadness, frustration, worry, and fear. Please note down these words on a piece of paper or your copybooks so that you will be able to follow with us and match each situation with the correct word. So let's take a look at the pictures. So we have picture A or situation A. What do we have? We have someone like you, a student. What is he doing? He's reading a book. Look at him. He's putting his hands on or over his head. What is he doing? What is he expressing? Situation B, what do we have? We have a couple, a groom and a bride. Look at them, they are smiling, and the people, they are smiling, they are clapping. What are they expressing? And situation C, this is a GIF picture. Situation D, two pupils raising their hands, smiling in the classroom. Situation E, we have a group of people in a cemetery crying over a grave. What are they expressing? Situation F, we are in a hospital. We have two people and a little boy in a hospital bed. How are they looking at the boy? And situation G, we have a man and another man threatening him with a knife, raising the knife in the face of the older man. What is the older man thinking? What is he expressing on his face? And lastly, we have situation H, a man sitting in his desk and he's working on his computer and he's doing some hand gestures and facial expressions. So, since you have looked at the pictures and studied what these people are doing, you try and match each situation with the right word. So, feel free to pause the video and do your task. So, have you finished? Good. Let's take a look at the solution. Key. So, situation A, the student who is reading the book and putting his hands on his head. He is expressing anxiety. And anxiety here, he is worried about, for example, his exam. He is not satisfied about his revision. He is worried. He is very worried. And we call it anxiety. Situation B, the couple who just married, they are smiling and the people are laughing. They are expressing happiness. Situation C, the woman is asking someone what is his, her, or her problem. She wants to know what's the problem. and since she does not want it, she does not know it, she is frustrated. She is expressing frustration. Situation D. The two pupils who are raising their hands happily in the classroom, they are expressing enthusiasm. They are very happy to be in the classroom. They are very much ready to participate in their classroom activities. Situation E. The group of people who are in the cemetery and visiting a grave, they are crying. Usually when we go to the cemetery and visit someone that we know who has passed away, we are sad. So here we are expressing sadness. Situation F. The man and the woman are actually the parents of the boy who is resting in the hospital bed. He is a sick boy and his parents are very worried about his health. That's why you are seeing their faces drawn down and they are very much worried about their little boy. Situation G. We have an older man who is looking at a man who is threatening him with a knife. When someone pulls out a knife in your face, what would you feel? Would you feel happy? No, you would be afraid, fear, because you don't know what would happen to you. There is someone who is threatening your life. Lastly, we have picture or situation F. When you are revising or doing an activity in your subject of mathematics and you for example did good or have provided a good solution, you would be proud of yourself. You would be happy about your work, and we call it satisfaction. Now we are going to classify these words that we have came up of: happiness, satisfaction, anxiety, enthusiasm, sadness, frustration, worry, and fear into a table. So let's look at the instruction again. Look at these words again and say what do they mean or express. So since we have matched each situation with the right word, so let's go back to the words and see what they mean. So you have before you a table of vocabulary. We have provided you with some synonyms for the words that you have already seen in this task. For example, we have happiness is synonymous with joy, pleasure, delight, and cheerfulness. And note, we have the word delight. The GHT is a consonant cluster, but the letters G and H are silent letters. Silent letters mean that we do not pronounce them. So that's why we say delight and not delight or any other pronunciation. We say delight. We have worry, synonymous with distress, concern, perturbation, fear, terror, fright, and horror. Enthusiasm, eagerness, excitement, readiness, sadness, unhappiness, sorrow, grief, frustration, annoyance, discontent, dissatisfaction, anxiety, apprehension, uneasiness, and finally nervousness. So we have looked at these words and seen what do they mean and what are their synonyms. So let's see what do they express. What do they mean? When you see or hear the words happiness, for example, what do you think? What does it mean to you? Think about it. Have you finished? So the words happiness, satisfaction, anxiety, enthusiasm, sadness, frustration, worry, and fear, they express feelings and emotions. So the previous words, they express feelings and emotions. So since you have deduced the theme of the unit, which is feelings and emotions. So feelings and emotions, even though they seem as synonyms or related words, but they are actually very distinct. So what is the difference between feelings and emotions? Think about it for a moment. Done? So let's see what is the difference between feelings and emotions. Everyone might use the words feelings and emotions interchangeably. However, they are quite distinct from each other, but interrelated. For example, an emotion is a physiological experience or a state of awareness that gives you information about the world. And a feeling is your conscious awareness of the emotion itself. So let's have an example. A mother silently watches as her child is suffering from his sudden illness. She has an emotion. But what is this an emotion? She feels that it is sadness. So she names it sadness. And she takes the action her sadness requires, which might be crying or other sadness-based actions. So emotions and feelings, they are interrelated with each other. So since you have known what is the difference between these two, try to classify these feelings and emotions into the right column. So we stick with the same words: happiness, anxiety, enthusiasm, sadness, frustration, worry, and fear. Bear in mind that emotion is a physiological experience, and feeling is a conscious awareness of the emotion itself. So take a moment, feel free to pause the video and do the activity. Finished? Let's take a look at the key. So in feelings, happiness and worry are feelings. Emotions, we have enthusiasm, fear, sadness, frustration, and anxiety. So let's move on to the next task. So we have known which are the feelings and which are emotions. So which adjectives can be derived from the following words? So the words that you have are nouns. And let's see what are their adjectives. We have the word or the noun happiness, anxiety, enthusiasm, sadness, frustration, worry, fear, satisfaction, or self-satisfaction. Satisfaction is when you are proud of something you have done, and self-satisfaction is the same, but there is an emphasis on your own work. So in order to make words in English, we usually use affixation or prefixes or suffixes. Use your prerequisite or your knowledge of prerequisites in order to derive the adjectives from the following nouns. So feel free to pause the video and do the activity. Finish? So let's take a look at the solution. We have happiness. The adjective is happy. So happiness, we have taken away the suffix ness and we are left with happy. Anxiety, anxious, we added the suffix us to the word anxiety to get the adjective anxious. So the root is anxiety and the adjective is anxious. The same with happiness. The root is happy and we added the suffix y in order to have the adjective. Or again, in the other case, we have the root happy and we added the suffix ness to make the noun happiness. So, enthusiasm, enthusiastic, sadness, sad, frustration, frustrated or frustrating. So frustration is a noun and the adjective we have frustrating. So we added the suffix ing in order to make the adjective frustration. And we have the suffix ed. Here frustrated can be the past participle to the verb of the noun frustration, which is to frustrate. And next we have worry. The noun worry, the adjective is worried. Worried here is again the past participle of the verb to worry for the noun worry. Fear. We have adjectives fearful and or fearless. So we added the suffixes full and less to make the adjectives fearful and fearless. Next we have satisfaction, self-satisfaction. We have the adjectives satisfied, self-satisfied and satisfying. So let's recapitulate. So in order to make a noun, we can have an adjective plus ness, and in order to make an adjective, we can have noun plus the suffix full and less, or the suffix ing, or the suffix ik, ed, or us. And on the other hand, we have the prefix self. Self here is a prefix. We add self to noun in order to make another noun, or self to an adjective to make another adjective. So let's move on to another step. So since you have deduced the theme of the topic, so we are obliged to have another lesson. So let's take a look at the learning objectives for our lesson for today, for the next lesson. So we have introducing the theme and related topical vocabulary, comparing and distinguishing between feelings and emotions. We have already done that. Forming adjectives from nouns using prefixes, suffixes, well, self, full, and ing. Other suffixes, ness and en. Reviewing and consolidating the following grammatical items, expressing advice, pronouncing initial H and the cluster ngth. So before we start a lesson, we must have a lead-in or a warm-up, or what do we call a pre-stage. So before we start, our lesson for today is read and consider, or sequence read and consider. So from the title, read and consider, it means we are going to read a text. So let's find out. So stage 1, pre-reading. We have to pave the way for our reading. So we must have a pre-reading task. So the pre-reading task is a couple of questions. You need to solve them. So as you know, you are third-year learners and you are about to sit and do your baccalaureate exams, and the baccalaureate exam is an important exam in your educational career. So this step or stage in your lives is very important, and maybe it would make you feel certain things that are maybe negative and maybe positive. So today we are going to introduce our lesson in order to see what do you feel about this topic. So question number 1. How do you cope with exams? What do you do in order to cope with exams? Do you have special arrangements? You have special preparations? Do you make revision? What do you feel before, during, and after exams? Which do you think is more difficult? The period before the exam or taking the exam itself? Think about these 2 questions and tell us your feelings, tell us your ideas, your opinions about the matter of coping with exams. Feel free to pause the video, draw down your ideas. Maybe you can try to jot down ideas and work with your partner. You can make this as a group work or a couple students working together, a pair work, so that you can see what you think about the same subject. Maybe you will try and help each other. So let's take a look at some suggested answers. One student said, I cope with exams by setting up a schedule about the amount of time devoted for the revision of each subject, and some entertainment activities such as sports, listening to music. So they divide time for their studies and they divide time for entertainment so that they do not feel bored or stressed. Second, I think the period before taking the exam itself is more difficult because I am worried and anxious as I have not finished all the revisions, lots of subjects and what to focus on. So this person is afraid and worried about the period before taking the exam itself. Maybe they did not have enough time to revise. They have lots of subjects like streams of mathematics and technical maths. So let's take a look at the second stage. So we have established that maybe our topic for today is about coping with the exams. So let's find out. Stage 2, reading. Task 1. Look at the pictures, read the captions to answer the following comprehension questions. So a good technique in exams is to read answers before you read the text. So let's try this technique. We read the answers, then we move on to our text. So let's read the first question. What are the characters in the pictures doing? What problem has each one got? Which situation do you most identify with? So, what are the characters in the pictures doing? What do you notice them doing? What problem has each one got? Which situation do you most identify with? Which situation do you think is like yourself? So, let's take a look at the pictures. So, we have how many pictures? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pictures with captions. 7 pictures with captions. And these pictures are about persons. Look at them. Where are they? Who are they? They are students and they are in a classroom. Maybe they are sitting on desks and they are writing something. They are, yes, where? They are in an exam. They are doing their exams. So let's see what they are thinking. Let's start with Adam. What is he saying? Help, My mind has gone blank. I revised it all, but now I can't remember anything. I am going to fail. What does Miriam say? This test is rather easy. I won't even bother to check my answers. Let's see what Dunya thinks. Oh, I wish I had started my revision before last week. I was up so late last night and then I could not sleep because I was so worried about this. What does Samir say as well? Oh no, time is almost finished and I haven't even read this last section of the test. Jana, oh no, I didn't revise the passive. Why did I spend all that time on things I already knew? Amir, I'm not sure whether I have answered questions 2 and 5 correctly, and I don't have time to check them. What shall I do? Malek, I have spent 10 minutes on this question, and I still don't know the answer. I'll never finish all the others. So let's take a look at the key. Task 1, the first question or the answer for the first question is the characters in the pictures are taking their exams. So the people, the students we seen in the picture, the pictures, they are taking their exams. So, and most of them have a problem with coping with exams. They are telling us about their problems. So you have seen each and every one's problem. So which situation or which problem do you identify the most with? The most situation that I identify with is Samir's situation. I always waste time answering one question and forget about the others. So pay attention, don't do that in your exams. Try and divide your time equally for each answer. Don't take your whole time answering one question and forgetting about the others. So all these students, most of them, they share one thing or two things actually. They are taking their exams and they have a problem. They have a problem while taking their exams. So as you know, problems have solutions. But these solutions are not the solutions that you know. They are not mathematical solutions. What do? These solutions need to be in the form of something else. The problems can be solved using solutions or suggestions, or what do we call a device. So these students, they are not in need of mathematical solutions. They are in need of pieces of advice in order to make them satisfied and happy and to relieve them of their stress. So the focus point of our lesson today is given a device. So I repeat, our focus for this lesson is given a device. So you are going to review how to express or how to give advice in the English language. You have already dealt or tackled with this lesson. So this is just a revision. I repeat, the next or the coming activities or tasks are set in order for you to review a previous or a prerequisite grammar point. We are going to consolidate it. So let's start. Task 2. So as you know, we said these students have problems, and any problem has a solution, and we decided our solution is a advice. So below is a series of advice about how to cope with exams. Go through the list and match the appropriate advice with the corresponding character or situation in task 1 stage 2. Write your choice as indicated in the table. So let's take a look at the pieces of advice. We have advices from A to B to C, D, E, F, and G. So you need to go back to the situations. Feel free to pause the video, go back to the situation and try to match each advice with the situation. An advice is only appropriate for one person, so you have to categorize them in this table. Advice we have from A to G, and the character's name. You have to only write the character's name. So A, use your revision plan to find out which things you still have problems with and which things you know well. Spend most of your time on things that you are not sure of. Keep calm in the exam. If you've done your revision, there's no need to panic. C, always leave enough time to check all your answers. D, plan your time in the exam. Look through the whole paper first and work out how much time you need to spend on each section. Don't waste on one question. If you can't do something, leave it and come back to it later. F, don't revise heavily at the last minute. Get a good night's sleep the night before the exam so that your mind is fresh. Use all the time that you have available in the exam. If you finish early, go back and check everything, even the questions you find very easy. So go back to the situations, read them carefully, reread them, and try to match each advice with the appropriate character. So feel free to pause the video and do your activity. Finished? Let's take a look at the solutions. So advice A is with Jenna, B with Adam, C with Amir, D with Samir, E with Malak, and F Dunya, and G with Maryam. So if you compare each advice with the character's name, you would see they are appropriate for each situation. So let's move on. To another point. So we have, again I repeat, we have related advices with the right character, name. So we are going to review how to express an advice in the English language. So before we start, we have to practice the language points on the sentence level, then the paragraph level. So first question. Go through the list of advice again and rephrase the sentences using had better, ought to, or needn't wherever possible. So we express advice using had better, ought to, and need not. So normally you have already dealt with these words, these expressions, you have already seen them. So let's test your memory. Let's test your memory or your previous memory about these prerequisites. So I repeat, you go through the list of advice again and you rephrase the sentences using had better, ought to, and need not. So the first one has been done for you. You have had better, use your revision plan. You ought to use your revision plan. So you had better. We have subject you, had better. And we have use. Use is the verb, the stem of the verb to use. So you had better use your revision plan. I repeat, we have you, the subject, had better, and use and the rest of the sentence. So had better plus use. Use is the stem of the verb to use. Next, you ought to use your revision plan. So what do you notice? It's the same sentence, or it's the same idea, but expressed in a different way using ought to. So in your baccalaureate exam, you have this same typology. They will give you two sentences. For example, sentence A, this is sentence A, and this is sentence B. They would tell you to write sentence B so that it means as sentence A. So it means that you are going to rewrite the same sentence but in a different way, but still keeping the same meaning. So again, go back to the list of advice and try to put them or reuse had better, ought to, and need not. I repeat, had better, ought to, and needn't, they are used to express advice. So have you finished? So let's move on to the solution of the task and inject the language items learned so far. So we said that A has been already given to you, so move on to the other solutions. B, you ought to keep calm, you needn't panic. We have here ought to plus stem. You needn't panic. We have needn't plus stem. C, you had better leave time to check all your answers. You had better plus stem. D, you ought to plan your time in the exam. So this sentence, it expresses advice, and we can express it in a different way using the model should. So we say, you should plan your time in the exam. We have should plus stem. E, you ought to leave the question if you can't do something and come back to it later. F, you had better get a good night's sleep before the exam. After finishing early, you had better go back and check every question, even the ones you find easy. So in order to express advice in English, we use ought to, needn't, had better, and should. But even though they express the same thing, they mean differently. For example, we have ought to and should. They express advice. But had better, it expresses advice, but it expresses an urgent advice, and this urgent advice, if not followed, bad consequences would follow it. And lastly, we have needn't. Needn't here, it expresses the lack of necessity, but we can use it to express advice as well. So let's move on to another practice, to practice the language items more. So task 4, read the following sentences and then circle the correct options to fill in the gaps. So we have 4 sentences, and you have to circle the right options, the three options in each sentence, you have to circle or choose the right one. So remember that we want to express advice and not any other function. So be careful to choose and circle the right expression that expresses advice. Feel free to pause the video and do your task. Finished? Let's move on to the answer, to the solution of the task. So A, yes, I know that I should have studied last night, but I decided to watch TV instead. So as you can see, we have something different. It's should have studied. It's should plus have plus studied, meaning should plus have plus the past participle of the verb. We use should have plus past participle to express advice, but when it has already been too late. For example, you have done something. For example, in this case, this person should have studied last night, but he did not do it. He went and watched TV instead. So here we are expressing an advice even if it is late. So B, you needn't turn off the computer in the lab. It is programmed to switch off automatically. C, you had better revise the last chapter because I am sure it will be included in the exam. So had better, you can write it in two versions or two forms. We have had better here and had apostrophe the better. So last sentence, you ought to read the whole test at least once before writing any answer. So since you have or once experience or having experienced the language in meaningful communication, let's deduce the rules. So we use the following models to give advice. We have should have plus past participle, should plus stem, had better plus stem, ought to plus stem, needn't plus stem. What about their functions? Should is a modal verb that expresses or its obvious meaning is to give advice. Had better is the same, meaning it gives advice, but it's used for more urgent advice with bad consequences if you don't follow it. Ought to, it expresses a weak advice, but even so, it's used to express advice. Should have expresses advice that comes too late after a specific event has already occurred. Finally, needn't has the basic meaning of necessity and an extended meaning related to advice. So let's take a look at their forms. So first we start with the positive form. Should plus have plus past participle. Second, should plus stem. 3, ought to plus stem. 4, had better plus stem. So let's take a look at their negative forms. Should plus not plus have plus past participle. I repeat, should plus not plus have plus past participle, like the example. You should not have cheated in your exam. Second, should plus not plus stem, like the example. You should not cheat in exams. 3, ought not to stem. Ought plus not plus to plus stem, like the example. You ought not to be disrespectful to your teacher. 4. Had better plus not plus stem. Like the example, you had better not stay up late or you will be late for your exam. 5. Needn't plus stem. Needn't plus stem. You needn't think about such unimportant matters and focus on your work. So this was their negative form. So let's see if we can make questions from them. Asking questions. I should clean my room. How do we ask the question? We ask the question this way. Should I clean my room? So the form is should plus subject plus verb plus the rest of the sentence plus, of course, the question mark. And we have a note. There is no interrogative form for had better and ought to. We cannot make questions using had better and ought to.
شكرا على المشاهدة. لا تنسوا الاشتراك في القناة، الضغط على الجرس، الإعجاب بالفيديو.